the Sony A9. I've had it here for almost a couple weeks now. I've shot it before. I posted my review at stevehufpphoto.com, but here I want to tell you guys a little bit more about it, show you guys a little more about it. Not like there's not 500 other videos on YouTube for this camera, but this is my take, my thoughts. No blackout, look at that. The Sony A9, fast as hell. This thing is just a monster, but it's more than just a blazing fast as hell camera. It's a do anything camera, literally. You can shoot portraits, fashion, weddings, street, still life, landscape, low light, and even no light, which I have shown in my review. The high ISO capabilities of this guy are stunning. To me, it's best since the A7S II in that regard. The build has been enhanced since the A7. You have a little beefier grip. We now have a dedicated dial up here for camera speed settings, so like your frame rates and your focus modes, which are down at the bottom here. So overall, the camera is a huge improvement from the A7R II, and here is why. I'm not going to sit here and mess around and blab all day. You have a bigger battery. So this battery, I'm going to tell you something that's pretty amazing. This battery, I've received this review unit a week and a half ago, and I posted my review because I've used this camera 2 other times before this review unit came, so I have more experience with the A9 than just this last week and a half. But I've been shooting it a week and a half, and I still have, and I'm going to show you in case you don't believe me. I'm going to turn this on. I still have 70% battery left. Can you see that up here? 70% battery left. And that's from shooting it for the last week and a half. Now, I don't shoot like machine gun style like I did at the intro here, like this. Oh, now I have it in a lower shutter speed, only 1/8 of a second. I shoot 1 frame at a time, so I pick my shots carefully. If you do that, this battery could last you 3-4 weeks. And I'm using the electronic shutter, and I have the sound effect on. You can turn it off, and when you do, it's completely silent. But you have that big battery, which is nice to have. You now have this latched compartment. There's a little latch right here for your SD cards. I'm using a pretty nice card right now. I'm using a 64 gigabyte Lexar 2000 speed card in slot A. And what's cool is you have a second slot, slot B, so you can have dual SD cards for backup or what have you, or if you run out of space. We do still have our exposure compensation dial up top. You have 2 programmable buttons up top, the C1 and C2 button. On the back, you have a joystick now, which used to never be there. So it's a cool addition to have this joystick. I like it much better than that old lever Sony used to have. Also, the record for video is up here instead of over here, which is genius. Why didn't they do this in the first place with the A7 series to avoid accidental video recording? So you have your buttons here, you have your play, your trash, which is also C4. You can customize any button on here, even these here. This goes to your ISO when you push that to the right, but you can customize these in any way. Oh, let me see what I got going on here. I just set it accidentally to ISO 200,000. So you have dual SD, your big battery. This EVF is beautiful. So C3 out of the box is set up to choose your shutter type. We'll put it back on mechanical. And if you're wondering, I have a beautiful lens on here. Some are going to say, man, that's an ugly lens. But this is a Voigtlander 50 f3.5, and it's a Leica M mount. And that's another thing I love about the A9 and A7, is you can convert any lens of almost any lens on any mount onto this camera. So I'm using a Leica M mount with a Voigtlander close focus M to E adapter. I've used this adapter since it came out. It's amazing. That's what I use to mount M glass on. I also have adapters for Nikon and Canon, so I can use Nikon and Canon glass. I can use vintage screw mount Leica lenses on this, old rangefinder lenses. That's another reason I love the Sony system, the mirrorless system, because it's so damn versatile. And the video on this guy, 4K video, really beautiful colors come out of this camera. It seems to have improved since the previous gen, but there's no S-Log, so that'll be a complaint for some. I know many filmmakers love using S-Log, whether they're using an A7S series, A7R2, or the Pro Video Cinema cameras like the FS5 or FS7. I'm shooting this on a Canon C100 Mark II with a Canon 16-35 f2.8. A lot of people ask me these days because the focus is so quick with the dual pixel AF. But back to the Sony, you have that big bright EVF, you have no blackout, no blackout. So if you're shooting 20 frames per second or what have you, and you're looking through that EVF or even the LCD, there's no blackout. So some people said, well, how do I know I'm taking a picture? If you're, say you're in silent mode and you're doing that, well, there is an overlay that gets laid over into the EVF, and it allows you to see this translucent overlay every time a shot is taken. So you know when a shot is being taken with this camera if you're using that mode. Now, of course, you don't have to use that mode. Me, I'll probably most likely use the mechanical shutter most of the time because I like that feedback, that hey, you just took a shot kind of. Shutter sounds the same as the A7 series that came before. It's probably the same. The mount seems very tough. I have no issues. Some people ask me about the mount, if it felt flimsy. It's all metal. It feels really well made. I don't think Sony is going to allow to have a problem with the mount on the A9. This is their flagship camera. So I'm sure that they took great strides in making it pretty solidly. You have your swivel out LCD here as usual. Okay. What else can I tell you about this Sony camera? The menus, they look a little bit better than what has come before. So you have all of your choices, which are vast. That's one thing, you know, I love Sony cameras and their versatility, but I feel their menus are just so extreme with so many choices and settings. You can see as I go through this, I mean, there's just settings for everything you can imagine. So again, you can customize any buttons. I never go into the menu. What I do is I usually have my settings already dialed in, or anything that I want to change can be accessed by dials and buttons. But I like to use the quick menu if I use any menu, and it allows me to change my most used things like focus area, metering mode, color creative style, and therefore, and so forth. So I never really have to go into that menu until, or the only time I do is when I first get the camera and I set it up to my likes. So the A9 is the most technologically advanced mirrorless camera ever made for full frame format as of 2017, June 2017. No other camera, full frame mirrorless 35mm format, or probably DSLR, can do what this camera does in regards to speed and focus tracking. If you're using focus tracking, this thing will stick to your subject like glue. When I shot sports with it, once you lock on with that tracking, it just sticks. So sports shooters will love this camera as soon as Sony comes out with some of those super long primes they've been itching for. But me, I think this is an amazing street camera. You have beautiful image quality. Even JPEGs are gorgeous out of this camera. They convert to black and white very well. You can use, like I said, any lens pretty much on this guy. So if you want to shoot an old vintage Leica lens, slap it on, shoot some street. If you get into low light or no light, no problem, crank up the ISO. The review at my website shows samples at ISO 51,000 and even 102,000 shot in darkness, so you can get an idea of what the camera does in that situation. You have your tripod mount here. Your battery goes here as I showed. Your SD card door is here. I already showed that. your beautiful EVF, your LCD, your dials. That's pretty much the Sony A9 without getting super technical, which I don't like to do. Is this thing takes lovely photos, and as I was talking here, I threw up some photos that I shot with the A9 and various lenses. But I highly recommend it if you're a pro or enthusiast who thinks you can get use out of this guy. $4,500 is expensive. I'm going to say that right now. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's a deal, you get all your money's worth. I mean, you kind of do if you're a professional and you earn money from your prints. But if you're an enthusiast like me, I stopped doing photos for money a long time ago. So if you're an enthusiast like me, $4,500 is a chunk of change. But so is $7,000 if you buy a Leica M10 or a Leica SL. So is my Olympus EM1 II setup with my lenses, you know, $6,000-$7,000 in the whole kit and caboodle. So depending on your needs. Now, what would I gain from going to this and selling my A7R II? I would gain much better battery life. I would only need to carry 1, maybe 2 batteries for this, and I'd be set. I have 6 or 8 for my A7R II. Fast autofocus that never misses. I have not missed a shot with the A7 or the A9 yet when using autofocus. That 24-70 G Master lens is gorgeous with this camera. If I ever do need speed, it's there. If I ever need low light, this is giving me, in my tests, a little bit nicer performance to my eyes than the A7R II in low light. Resolution, I don't need high resolution at all. I don't crop a quarter of my frame and say, oh, here's my photo. So I'm good with 24 megapixels. For me, that is the sweet spot. This is a stacked backlit sensor, and the sensor in this guy is amazing. As some of you know, Sony's pretty much at the forefront of sensor technology. They make sensors for other camera manufacturers. What would I lose? I'd lose the higher resolution of the A7R II, and that's about it. So I would gain quite a bit, and I would use this for 2 or 3 years, just like I did the A7R II, and will if I don't get this. But it's a lovely camera, so figure out what your needs are, what your wants are, what your desires are. But there's no way I can see anyone being disappointed with the A9 unless they get a lemon or something. Like I said, there's been reports of banding at ISO 100. I could not recreate that, and I tried my hardest with this A9, so I think it's kind of an isolated situation with 1 or a few cameras, because mine does not have an issue. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. This is the Sony A9. My full review is at stevehufpphoto.com, and I want to thank you guys for watching what I do and reading my reviews. We're inching up. We're not too far away from 10 years now, and it's awesome, awesome, awesome. New website design over there, so be sure to check it out. There's a buy and sell over there. Be sure to check it out. And this is Steve Huff. I will see you guys again soon. Bye.